Tom Donney here. Want to look at performance of triple Saab carburetors. I tested all the carburetors that I know of anyway. We've got the Lancia carburetors, which are a dual carburetor, a dual Solex on a special manifold, downdraft. Then you've got your 73-24-17, which is your later Monte Carlo. Here's your earlier Monte Carlo, the 73-1098. Then you've got your later version of the non-Monte Carlo, a 73-2007. And then you have your GT, which is your first triple carb made, the 717-921. And then lastly, you've got the Sonett side drafts, which are the preferred choice for Saab carburetors at this point in time for best performance, unless you're using a Mikuni or Electron, because they will outperform the Sonett hands down, both in drivability and high-end horsepower all the way through the range. The one thing that does make every one of these carburetors a bit unique is the manifold. And you can actually, the Lancia excluded, you can actually take a manifold, if you can get everything to match up for the holes and stuff, and use a earlier manifold on later carbs and so forth. Your GTs are a BIC carburetor, a 34 BIC, so they are a little bit different. But they also have the shortest manifold. And you know, manifolds are going to determine what your power band is, and whether you're going to have power on higher RPMs, lower RPMs, that sort of thing. All that has to be taken into account, just as an expansion chamber does when you're racing and doing that sort of a thing. But for strictly top-end performance, typically shorter's better. Longer gives torque, shorter gives horsepower. So it really depends on what you're after. And that's a generic rule of thumb, not always true. So two-strokes are a totally different animal. I'm going to try here to show the performance gains of these carburetors. Really the only part that needs to be looked at, and I ran, these are all part of my air-fuel ratio testing that I did. I ran over 30 tests. All tests were done without air cleaners, and were done in a 7,600 RPM max range. And the power band started, these charts are actually off on the numbers they show for the RPM. It ended at 7,600 and started somewhere, I think around, I want to say 6,800, something like that. Anyway, this is a, if we look at the number there, the red is the 73-24-17. And that's a late Monte Carlo. And we're running overlaid comparisons against the 73-1098, which is the early Monte Carlo, and then a 73-2007, which is a late non-Monte Carlo. So there's the different carburetors here laid out just as they were tested. There's the red line, there's the green line, and there's the blue line. And once we establish what those are, then we can look over. The left side is our engine torque in blue, and that would be the bottom number here. And then the top number is our horsepower, and that's in red, engine power. Okay. These are all weather corrected, so it's all taking into account the current weather situations. And you can see here clearly that the red carburetor is the winner. The green's in the middle, and blue was the lowest. Same thing for torque. So the clear winner was the red one, which is the 73-24-17, which is the late style Monte Carlo. Now these are very, not that significant differences. I would call these almost indiscernible if you're running repeat tests. Very, very tough to get a difference, but I ran enough to know that this was where the carburetors ran, and obviously that's why I have in the example there. So here's your best carburetor for performance amongst these three, followed by your early Monte Carlo, followed by what you would expect, the longest intake manifold, which is your 73-2007. That said, the 73-2007 is a very smooth, very good running carburetor. I'd recommend it for anything except balls to the wall, all-out racing. That's going to be a good carb. If you change the manifold over from this one onto those, same thing, because it's the same damn carbs. They're the 34W-2 here, the 34W-2 here, and then the 34W is what we're running on the 73-1098. So of those three carbs, here's our winner. But then if we compare further, and we take the 417 we just said was the best, and we look at it here, and then we compare it to a 717 921, which is the GT carburetors. All right, so the red line is the GT, the blue line, or the green line, which we said was the best of the other three. You can ignore the blue line for right now. But again, the red line is the GT, the green line is the best performing of the other carburetors. And you can see, once again, the red line is the winner. It's the highest one up. And the red line is the GT. So the 71, 79, 21, the early GT carbs outperforms the best of these three carbs. So the best carburetor you could put on for top-end performance, according to my tests, were the GT carb. That said, the GT carb has a zillion parts. It's got independent throttle adjustment. It is a royal pain in the ass to work on. So I wouldn't recommend using it. If you really want, and what makes it a little bit better, it's got the shortest manifold of all. So that's really what your subtle differences are. So I guess what I'm saying, of all four of these choices you could have for these carburetors, if I was going to choose one for 99% of what I was going to do, I would take that guy right there. Easy to find, inexpensive, easy to rebuild, works great. If I wanted top-end horsepower, okay, swap the manifold out. And then you basically have a late model GT. That's the only difference is the manifold. A little bit shorter manifold, about a ½ inch shorter, I think. So that's your 4 common downdrafts that have good performance. And we'll take one more look here now at Lancia and some 40mm side draft. And again, the Lancia, they're an oddball. I've only seen a few sets of those, so good luck if you have a set of those. They perform real well, but they're a downdraft. And if you compare them to a side draft is always going to win. So here you've got your Bonneville, you've got your GT carbs, which we said was the best carb in red. Then we got our Sonett, which is said by most to be the best carburetor period you could run from Saab factory. And then the Lancia carb. And the Sonett is in green, and you can see the Sonett outperforms everything. Followed by the Lancia, which is in blue. Followed by the best performing of the other 3 downdraft, which is the GT carb. So there you can look at that. Hopefully this turns out okay on a monitor. Kind of ignore the last half of those on the right side of the screen, because that's more internal notes from me. Really all you want to know is what carburetor number was. Was it a side draft 40mm or Lancia or the 921 GTs? So that shows the performance of those. Clear winner again is the Sonett. Let's see, what do we got here we're going to look at? So now we've got the Sonett in red, the side drafts, the Lancia, and then just another comparison of the 731098, which is a pretty good carb. And again, the Sonett is going to outperform everything. The Lancia falls down on the high RPMs because of its downdraft and longer intake. Excuse me. What I want to look at here, just for comparison, this is a Mikuni carb I have, or Electron carb. I run these at Bonneville, and I'm going to try to overlay these so you can see them a little bit. Here's 127 horsepower. Excuse me, it's not actually 127, it's torque. I'm sorry. Horsepower is on the right. But if we lay that across and kind of line these up in the same, you can see the increase in, there's the 83 right here. And this is with your Mikunis and Electrons that I'm selling. So you can see there you've got better performance with those by far. And that's where I'm getting on the setup I've got right now. We're knocking right on the door of 100 horse to the wheel with either the Electron or the Mikuni carbs. We got a special manifold being made to help do that. One thing I did want to show you here, this is only difference in these is jetting. The bottom number, the green number, was an engine that was fed a little bit too much fuel. You'll see all the time, especially in diesels, where they pour all that black smoke out the exhaust pipe. And all that is black. Every time you see black exhaust, think of horses, black horses. That's black horsepower going up and out that's not being utilized. That's an inefficient engine. And the same will hold true with these Saab. If you're smoking a bunch, you're running too rich. And there's an old saying, lean is mean, and you will definitely gain power if you run these just a little bit leaner. And careful not to go too lean, of course, or you'll be buying pistons from me. But this shows how huge of a difference. This is the exact same carburetor, ran within minutes of each other. All I changed was the main jet. The top number is a leaner jet. That's all I did. I knew I was running rich with the green, and I jetted down, and bam, it took off and ran. So there's all the carburetors. Again, I really like that 2007, that late model one. That's a real easy to get carburetor, easy to use, and it'll perform extremely well on your Saab for you and do a great job for you out there. We are having manifolds made, just FYI. We've got a variety we're doing right now, but there's a kind of a quick look in some of the testing we're doing, and getting some pretty good numbers out of everything. So that's all I got for today. This is Tom Donney, Fort Dodge, Iowa, signing off.